Here we go. Good morning. In fact, I got that wrong straight away. Good afternoon. Hello there to this wonderful Proptech panel. Hello there to Mr. Matt Nicol, Kai Wheatley, Kristjan Byfield, and Damon Bullimore. How are you all, gents? Okay?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, well, good. Thank you, Simon.
Good. Legends of the scene. You've got to live up to your billing now, okay?
Yeah, well, good.
Good. Chaps, thanks very much for making it on today. Let's just kick off straight away with a nice, simple one for you. Do you think that Proptech now is a bit of a dirty word? And I'll explain where I'm thinking from. I think of this. A few years ago, Proptech was the nice, shiny thing, wasn't it? The buzzword. And I think most people have noticed over the last couple of months, couple of years really, that actually it's using a bit more of a swear word now. So do you think that's true? Do you think it's hard a little bit at the moment? And if so, why? Can we kick off with Kristjan, if that's all right?
Look, I think last year, the last couple of years, I think Proptech did become a bit of a dirty word. I think it was tagged on to anything that remotely had some sort of tangible tech element. And there was a lot of people, it was such a buzzword. There was a lot of people creating products really that they were creating a product that sort of created a problem rather than solve the problem that existed.
Yeah.
So I think that's true, but I think what the last few months has done is I think it's brought a lot of agents into focus about the value of the right Proptech in the business, and actually how critical that is. I think you saw the businesses. There were a lot of businesses that were very well underpinned with some really good sort of tech stacks, and actually the transition when lockdown happened for them was actually pretty easy. They had to deal with the furlough and everything like that, but in terms of business operation, day-to-day stuff, it was pretty seamless stuff. So I think Proptech was a bit of a dirty word. I think in many ways this crisis has sort of helped alleviate that and helped a lot of agents understand that actually there's some really good Proptech out there that really delivers operationally, profitability and consumer journey experience.
What catches your eye, Kristjan? Just you're talking there about some of the Proptech that impresses you. Which ones come to mind?
Well, I think Matt will probably talk about this later, but I think Dabble's a really interesting one that's come into the market. We're not using it in our agency yet, but I know I've seen some agents use that really, really well. And from what I've seen with that, it seems to have learned off the back of some of the earlier sort of products in that space that were doing this sort of virtual tour space. And it's sort of learned from those and applied a sort of layer of agency understanding on top of it. And I think those are the products, now that are really starting to get that. They understand the operation, they understand the industry and regulation, but they also understand agency. And I think that's the really critical thing, is it's not some sort of one-size-fits-all product that that's being crowbarred into an agency and, you have to put up with this and that. I think, you're now getting some really good products that really get agency and are built from agency from day dot.
Yeah.
And then, the seamlessness of, yes, you can deliver that consumer experience that you want to, but without having to compromise on how you operate internally.
Okay, cool. Matt, he mentioned you there. Do you want to kick off next? What's your view of it? Proptech?
Yeah, I think similar to Kristjan saying that. Yeah, I feel that it's about the cost, and the problem it's solving really is the big thing. There's lots of different opportunities out there, and some really stick in my mind. And Kai's here obviously with Area, and that's another thing that we've just signed up to recently. And it's going to be a game changer for us because we've got portal leads coming in from all these different areas. There we are, coming in from all these different locations, and actually for my staff, I just want one place that I know it's there. We can kind of do the measurements on it. For us, we have probably been adopters of most Proptech. If I'm honest with you, we've kind of looked at most things out there, and I think you have to need to have a process in place to actually analyse it after a short period of time, 6 months, be it 12 months, and work out whether it actually is a fit for your business. A lot of times, it's not just what the director feels with it, but it's what your staff feel as well, because if they adopt it, agree with it, see the benefits of it, then it has, you know, traction to go and make your life a lot easier. And I think in the long term, we talk about Gavel live stream, there'll be cost saving as a result of it. And that's what the tech should do for you. It should actually save you time and money, I feel. And that's not to lose staff, not at all, but it's to obviously make sure that your staff can then be focused on doing something else that makes more money. So a win for the business, hopefully, overall.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting, that point you make. Obviously, that it is really important, isn't it? With I think all suppliers, but particularly Proptech, it's very easily to adopt a lot of these things, but actually, you do need to apply a bit of an overview, isn't it? A really detailed one to ensure you are getting that ROI. Because a lot of Proptech is not that expensive, but actually, it's the worst source of grief, isn't it? If you're not using it effectively.
Yeah, I think, and you get very busy unless you're on top of your P&L and you've got someone like Kerfuffle kind of doing the looking through what you're spending your money on. You forget you're spending 200 quid on that every month and actually use it twice. It's making sure that you're actually getting bang for your buck. And because the costs are quite small, you forget them and they mount up, and that's when you're squeezing your profit in each of your sales or each of your lets. So it is important to keep a real good eye on how you're spending the money, and actually that it is returning something that you can kind of say, if I didn't have that, it would cause me a problem.
First of all, brilliant shameless use of kerfuffle there. So
yeah,
I appreciate it. That's very kind of you. Hello, Kai. Well, obviously, they've mentioned that area. We'll come on to that in a bit more detail. But just your view on Proptech in general at the moment.
Yeah, I agree with both what Matt and Kristjan have said. It's been an evolving space and continues to be that. I think there's been a lot of confusion from the agent side when looking at all these different products and really trying to understand the benefit that it brings to the business. And the lack of the joined up thinking between various products and CRMs has been definitely a major problem for our industry. It seems like there's some light at the end of the tunnel now on this. We're not there yet, but I think if that develops at the path that we're hoping over the next couple of years, I think this sort of Proptech CRM amalgamation space cooperation will make agents become a lot more efficient. And the reality is, when we look at agents as a whole, if you go send back 20, 25 years ago, before we had the internet and you're still registering people on applicant cards, the bizarre thing is, as an industry, we haven't got any more efficient over that time. We have all the additional products and platforms that we're operating in. And if you look at the P&L basis going back 25 years, we haven't evolved as an industry and becoming more efficient, which is bizarre when you think about all the tools that we have available to us.
That's staggering, isn't it, really, when you think about it? Technology's job, obviously, is to do more with less, and you're quite right. If that's true, and it feels like that efficiency is missing, that's a pretty damning indictment on all of this tech, isn't it?
It is, as we are today. I do think we're on the cusp of that changing. But talking to many estate agents around the country, we're all involved with multiple suppliers. And as Matt alluded to, that's cost that can be quickly accumulated into the business. And ultimately, if that's not making the business more efficient, winning extra business, helping with compliance, if it's just serving a function that he was actually doing, but just doing it in a different way, then it's not taking your business on in necessarily the step you was anticipating.
Yeah. Amy Hampton's coming in with the tough questions. Am I trying to be Eddie Izzard? Incident last night with me and some mascara, but we're not going to go there. She also says, what's more on theme though? He says, as Peter Knight talks, is it a wow or win? And I think that's absolutely spot on, isn't it? It is so easy to pick up a lot of this stuff, and actually, if you're not checking it regularly, just have it stuck on your PLL for some time, isn't it? It's a bit like me at the start of the year when I got my gym membership. It's only by April, notice I should have cancelled it again. So, anyway. Damon, over to you, my friend. Defending accusation of Proptech being a dirty word.
I think it's a super interesting question. I think it's multi-layered as well. I think If you look at the very top level Proptech, which is like your Rightmoves and Zooplas, I think that Proptech's been focused on the wrong metrics. So, for example, you see, we've got 8 million page impressions, and no one's really thinking about actually qualification and efficiency for agents and what that actually then dissipates into, like the rest of the guys said, true monetary value on your P&L. So I think Proptech's done a few things which are interesting and completely incorrect. First of all, they've looked at the wrong metrics. Secondly, because agents like shiny things, then they actually mold their product to be shiny rather than actually truly think about what the problem is they're trying to solve. The next layer for me is then you've got a real plethora of Proptechs that have tried to be silos. So very small products solving a very small part of the chain, which then creates complexity for agents, and therefore they end up with 50 different products trying to do a journey that should be synchronous all the way through. And then that then boils it right down to the consumer, and the consumer then gets a very disparate journey because he or she's got feeding data from different products that aren't joined up. And that for me is really where Proptech isn't right. And sorry, the final thing that I think we learned as well in BYM is because you've got all those things in your mind, when you're writing software, you focus on inputs in a product and you forget about the outputs. Yeah. So consequently, like for us as a business, we wrote a full-on ROI dashboard that says, this is what we do and this is the return that we give, because, I'm not being derogatory to anybody, but agents don't have the time and don't have the bandwidth to be able to really agonize over what return that product then gives them. And then they start to become engaged with the software rather than actually looking at the journey from end to end. So quite a wide and quite a vast problem. And I think what I'm really excited about, and Simon, as you well know, because you and I have been together for more than a decade now, I've always been like a big driver on a data repository that everything gets updated at that one locality. Yeah. And I'm super excited to see that come. And I think what that'll do is it will mean that will be allowed to then widen its and write more software, and you'll see smaller Proptech businesses either merging in with medium-sized or larger Proptech businesses because they won't be able to stand alone as a silo effect.
I think that's really interesting. I mean, you go, it doesn't take too many years, and you still hear it a bit today, don't you, where agents will probably talk about the size of their database and not the actual engagement within there. We've got 40,000 people on our database, on our mailing database, but what are you actually doing with that? And I do like all that stuff you're doing with Boost now, everything, really nailing down the ROI, because you're quite right, it is actually quite hard still to look at these. I mean, we've got three agents with us today who actually obsess over those figures, but I think it's fair to say that actually they're in a minority in that respect. Certainly being able to look at that. I mean, Kristjan, we haven't got time to go over the whole Rightmove debate here, but you didn't do that without a whim, and you did it by analysing your cost of acquisition on leads, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Look, I did. We all know I did a very impassioned sort of thing of Rightmove, but I think, I was speaking to a lot of agents after that, and I said actually the most important part of that whole tirade that I did at Rightmove was like the last paragraph, where I said to agents, this is the right decision for us, and this is fact-based. We believe this is the right decision. As strongly held as those beliefs were, we've done statistical analysis. We're not going to cut off our nose to spite our face. So if it turns out to be the wrong decision, we'll absolutely put our hand up and go back. There's been no sign of that yet, but it was absolutely about doing it right for your business. And I've not engaged in a lot of these sort of boycott Rightmove groups or whatever. I mean, I was sort of approached off the back of my letter to join a lot of them, and actually I was very clear on saying I'm not joining it because it's not that singular. What's right for me might be the worst decision you could make for another agent, you know, and it has to come from that statistical analysis. But just coming back very briefly to what we were talking about before with Proptech, I think sometimes in panels like this, with the likes of Kai and Matt, myself, we've had a lot of tech in our businesses for a long time. We've seen the value in that. I think sometimes, you know, and Simon and Damon, you guys, you know, both in major Proptech products. I think it's so easy to forget that for some agents, they've still got to make that first step. And I think, you know, whenever I'm really put on the spot, you know, there's some really sexy stuff in our business. The one product that probably made obviously after our CRM, the one product that made the biggest singular impact on our business was DocuSign. You know, paperwork for us, the letting agent, was just a horrendous ball ache.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really simple product. That, in terms of return on investment, you know, everything, giving consumers a better experience, you know, job enjoyment, that one product was great. And I think, you know, that would be my bit of advice to agents who are still trying to figure out what this Proptech journey is. Yeah, there's some really cool sexy products out there that do some really like fascinating stuff. But you don't have to jump to the deep end. Go and look at something really simple. You know, I still talk to agents who are still doing paperwork manually on a Word document and printing and posting that stuff out. That's just mental. You know, for the sake of the DocuSign, or, you know, not even DocuSign, there's so many other options now, and lots of CRMs even have their own digital document solutions now. But just, it doesn't have to be earth-shattering stuff. Just try a little product, see how it works, bed it in, and go from there. Don't, you know, we often talk about tech stacks and integrations and all this sort of stuff, and that's really cool, sexy, high-level agency stuff. That's where we want most agents to get to eventually. But don't let that overwhelm you. Don't worry too much about the big picture. Tackle something, solve that problem, and then sort of flesh out from there. Would be my advice to agents who are really still tackling with the whole movement.
Well, Mr. Watkins obviously mentions agents are scared there. Do you think that morning, Chris? Do you think that fear drives them a lot of the time with adopting of products? You know, they feel like everything out.
Scared. I think, you know, as we know, there's a lot of older owners within agency who actually only engage with the business 1 or 2 days a week. Some of them even only a couple of days a month. I think those owners and directors really need to start having a real think about who's going to drive their business forward. It's fine. They're at a point in their lives where they don't want to go back to 5 or even 6 weeks in the office. I get that. But start looking at the younger half of your business and start getting them to really invest in the business. I think, you know, your employee shouldn't just be a singular employee in that role. You really want to get your staff to engage in what the whole business is delivering. What is the customer journey? What's the client journey? You know, and getting your staff to come to you and go, look, I've come across this really good product, or, you know, so and so in the neighbouring town is absolutely smashing it because they've adopted this.
Yeah.
You know, if you don't get that, then listen to people who do. You know, that's fine. You can't know everything. You know, and if you come from a different era, you know, if you really cut your teeth and did 20 or 30 years in agency before Proptech came in, you know, you are going to struggle with that, and that's fine. Accept that, but you know, delegate at least someone in the business, if not sort of your whole.
Yeah, can I just jump in there, Simon? I was just going to say that I agree with Chris and what Chris Watkins and what Kristjan's saying about agents being scared, but I think it's also driven from confusion. There's an enormous amount of Proptech, you know, and we've seen an absolute explosion in Proptech in the last 2 or 3 years. And if you put yourself, and I know these guys are agents as well, and I do try and put myself in that sentiment, that you're probably getting anything between 10 and 30 calls a month saying we've got the next game-changing piece of software, which is an overused acronym. And we're going to revolutionize your business, and we're going to tell you that we're going to save you money and drive this and drive that.
Win one more listing. You just need one more listing.
Exactly, mate. Yeah, and we've all, it's so common. It's incredible. So I think that the scared bit is actually that they're confused, and that is driving them being scared. So they'll sit there and procrastinate and say, well, I'd rather do nothing than something because I might make the wrong choices. And again, I think that goes back to what I was saying earlier about, because so many products in a silo function that touch so many parts of the customer journey, it's really tough. I feel for them massively.
I think it comes down to directors' involvement as well, really, because I think if you are on the ground, like Kristjan and Kai will be within their business, that's when you have an understanding of really what the pressure and the pain points are. And go back to kind of Kristjan's point about some of the directors that are kind of once or twice a week in the business, they're not seeing it. They're not seeing all the pain points. They're not really recognising. And you need to kind of take some advice from your staff, as Kristjan said. You really got to kind of listen to them about what the problems are at the moment, because then you can really assess what you need to invest in and where you need to spend your time. Because there are some amazing technologies out there that do make a massive difference for your business, and that's the point to be made, that Proptech might be a bit of a dirty word, but there's some crackers out there that really do make a difference for you.
Yeah, I remember talking to one of Peter Knight's groups, and he had somebody talking about the value of a business. The multiplier increased markedly if you obviously had Proptech, you were labelled Proptech. So I remember going back to the board at Repit and telling them how we had to start labelling ourselves as Proptech and everything else. And I think it was at exactly the precise moment when agents got sick of Proptech. So again, always brilliantly timed with my stuff. Philip Carter just makes the point, thanks Philip, talking about your point, Kai, is that because most companies opt for winning more growth rather than improving efficiency, we nearly always choose the option of more cash rather than tidying up processes. I mean, I think it's a brilliant point, isn't it? And I think it's the classic one, though, isn't it? We're always looking to feed the funnel rather than stop the leaky bucket.
Generally, when you analyse an estate agent, you go to the hard numbers. Most estate agencies don't do this. They run a P&L on every individual and every process that happens in the business. But then you really get an indication of where your time is being invested and how cost effective you are on that. If you go to that granular detail of the business, it really throws up some questions about where you need to find efficiency. And I would beg that if you feel that there's holes in the business, it's a lot easier to make that efficiency and deal with that outside of just trying to win new business all the time, which is always hard because you have to always invest to chase new business, whereas efficiency lies within business if you can find it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Rob Brady, hello there, Rob. He makes the point as well that without change, there's no innovation, creativity, or incentive for improvement. Those who initiate change will have a better opportunity to manage the change that is inevitable. That's a great overview there. Okay, guys, we've spoken about, if you like, the villains of the Proptech scene at the moment. I'm giving you the opportunity, especially as Mr. Mintz is here, to be knights on charges. What problems are you solving with the product you've created or introduced into the market? And I suppose, why did you feel you had to get involved? Can you kick off, Damon? You've been doing it the longest, so I'm going to go with experience over beauty here.
Thanks, Simon. That's really kind. So I think BriefYourMarket's all about what it says on the tin, which is about communication. I mean, it's always super interesting for me when you look at CRMs, and I'm not mad in CRMs at all, that they give you this option to be able to archive data. And the minute you archive data is the minute you're saying you should never talk to it ever again. That was always the challenge that we wanted to solve, which was keeping forefront of people's minds and making sure that you actually Don't rely on just an individual inside the business that says they're not willing to do business with ours, and you can communicate them in a different way. And we've really enhanced the product over time with writing Build Your Market, that's on market data, Brief Your Market, which is across, or Boost Your Market, which is about your webs, your web leads, and scoring those. And we drive 34 times investment. So every pound you spend, you get £34 back. And what we found with going back to the Proptech problem was, and I've been absolutely amazed by this, is they hide all the ROI because they like to be able to paint the rosiest picture. And everything we've done is about going, that's what we could, that's good enough or not good enough. But that was always the bit that I was keen on. I think we lost Simon. That was always the bit I was really keen on solving.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Dodgy hotel broadband, I'm afraid.
Yeah, yeah, that was always the bit that we were super keen on solving and proving our worth. And I think, integrating into software is key. Sorry, someone just walked in. Integrating into software is key, but it's going to be interesting as well. It might be more problematic, going back to what we were talking about earlier, which was actually the more that the silo software can integrate, maybe we cause more confusion and more people that become scared.
So I talk about, you've heard me talk about endlessly, haven't you? I talk about the three ages of Proptech, if you like. In the early days, you had they weren't even CRM software, were they? They were state agency software, your estate craft, your BMWs. The second wave of Proptech then came along, and I think that was quite a problematic one, because there was a lot of ivory tower techies, weren't there? Some of them might have been really, really good technically, but very little understanding of the business, and they really didn't deliver on the minimum viable product, if at all, for a long period of time. I think what's really, really interested in here, and by the way, Damon, you span all of these, don't you? Because you came in at the end of that kind of period of the giants and started integrating with all these CRM systems, and indeed your new product lines are being released. But what's really interesting about all these guys here is they're in this next stage of Proptech, where actually the agents themselves have been the enablers. They've actually got the technical skills now, resources, to be able to deliver products. And because they come from the industry, the minimum viable product is so much more efficient, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You see, seeing lots of people, especially in RPS, with a launch of foundations, where they've got in-house developers now writing applications, and that's brilliant. And I think that's also key being in Proptech. I think that's where you see the difference. So as you know, Simon, me and the rest of my board used to own an estate agency back in 2006.
Yeah.
You can understand the challenges, and obviously one of my main board members, David Nunes, still owns part of LSL and also NHM, that's got 39 outlets. So you need to understand this, going back to what Kristjan was saying earlier, what the problem is, and not a bunch of techies sat in a room thinking they know what the problem is. That's really dangerous.
Yeah. I spent far too long doing it. Matt, we've spoken about Gavel. Do you want to just give us an overview? That's quite an exciting, it's a product for the time as well, isn't it? Do you want to just give us an overview of what I think that's doing?
Yeah, definitely. So I came across Gavel. I contacted Joel, who's the CEO of Gavel out in Australia, during the lockdown, because I was trying to really understand how we were going to kind of come back out of this COVID-19 situation, but actually how we were going to kind of redo the way that we do business. And our focus has always been on number of viewings to a sale. So it's always been 16 viewings, you'll get a sale. And now actually reflecting, we talk about problems and solving them. We're kind of in a very good spot now that we've done the numbers. We're going from an average of 14 viewings to a sale down to 6 viewings to a sale or let. And that for me is really the result of Gavel. So we now, with any new instruction, we live stream them first. That's great because we can promote it to a wider audience. We can use social media, we can use Rightmove links and bits and pieces to make sure that people get to see it. Everyone joins that. We actually collect all their information. So they have to register on the app to be able to watch the live stream. So we get names, numbers, email addresses, which can obviously then go into your EDMs. And that then means that we can, after the viewing's taken place, after the live stream's taken place, we can contact that whole list of people viewed. And just like you would have registered them initially, you get to have the conversation. What do they think? Do they now want to go and have a look? And it's got benefits across the board, really. For my staff, it's more efficient. So they're not out doing 15 viewings on one property, staying out of the office for 2 hours. They can go and do a live stream, come back, get back on the phone, sell some more houses or prospect a bit. And our clients, our applicants prefer it because they aren't having to travel all over the place to see it. Zoe's giving it a call. Yeah, so that's one of my team that's obviously been using Gavel. And I mean, the staff, they're now like presenters, and it's great for their profile. Actually, when they go out and do evaluation, if they've been watched on a Gavel live stream by a potential vendor, the vendors already feel like they know them. So we're finding that there's many different uses for it, but obviously there was a problem. We were taking too many viewings to sell a property. We've solved that. And I believe that kind of Gavel's obviously assisted in that process. And we can do the numbers. I mean, we ran the same period, 13th of May to the 28th of June. Last year, we did 909 viewings for 56 sales. This year, we've done 453 viewings for 64 sales. So we've halved the number of appointments. And this is a time when everyone wants to go and view stuff. Like, it is crazy busy. I think we all kind of recognise that right now, there's a pent-up demand that we're all trying to deliver to. But for us, it's not just a COVID-19 fix. It's going to be our process going forward. And with new homes, we'll use it to launch developments prior to it going on the open market and use it to our advantage in those avenues as well.
So how long did the staff take to adopt it? Because obviously that's one of the key challenges for any business. Obviously, it's one thing to sell to the principal of the business, but ultimately, if the team don't take it on board as well, it's never going to deliver, is it? So did it take a while?
They did. Yeah, they did. I'm very blessed. I mean, some you know that have got more confidence in using it than others, but when you'd use it as a training tool and actually you kind of go through the bits that they could talk more about, we're caught on the first couple of live streams. I did the first 3 and I did it, obviously, throw myself under the bus, find out how it works, make sure I understood it so that when the questions came, I could help them. And we started watching some of the stuff doing, when they went into the toilet first, instead of going into the main room, building up the interest, those bits and pieces, just a few training pieces. But now they love it, and I share those statistics with them, and they realise, obviously, the thing that they're getting back is time, which they can then use for more business generation for them, which earns them a fee. So some of them, you can see that they should have been in TV. They're perfect for it. But we're not selective. We allow them all to do it. Every new starter that does it, I train them on live stream. So I go and do a live stream with them. They go in the property. I sit in my car. I ask them the questions like an applicant would. And it's a really nice kind of training process for them now. And the results are there. So, it seems to be a win all round.
So you feel very confident that this isn't just essentially for lockdown. You think this is a permanent change now in terms of the market?
For us it is, and I think that will be the thing with things like Gavel, that goes back to that point I made, that it's all right that the branch principal or the director gets involved with it and they like it and they think it's a good idea, they see the stats, but the staff need to be behind it and they need to see the benefits, and the administrators need to know it's easy to deal with. So talk about CRMs, obviously integrating, that's a big part to make it very easy for an administrator to go from typing up all the details, putting all the photos, putting the virtual tour links on, all that kind of stuff, to then have to add it onto another dashboard. We've now got it in such a way that with the Gavel dashboard, you could just drop the Rightmove link on and it pulls all the photos and scrapes all the information. So all of those things, if you can make it easy for the staff, they'll see the functionality and see the benefits of it.
Great.
Matt, can I jump in?
Well, you're dealing with an issue. I've made myself even more unpopular over the years with agents by telling them repeatedly that they're not short of leads. They're short with the ability to deal with those leads and deal with them effectively. Do you want to just give us an overview of what area, what the issue was it was solving for you in your business?
Yeah, well, leads come in, and agents for years have been spending lots of money on many different sources of leads, but actually what we've really not got to the bottom of is what we do with those leads and how well we process them, how efficient do we manage that data coming in. We forget that a lead is a customer and that they need to be treated like we want to be treated as a customer. But the industry has stat is that 50% of digital leads goes unanswered, which is crazy when we've considered the amount of money we actually spend to get that initial business come through. Then there's the side of not only when a lead comes in, it's what you do with that lead. If it's just an email response, you're only going to get a certain amount of interaction with the customer. But if you engage them early and bring them into your brand and take control of that relationship, you have a much better chance of obviously conversion and also winning additional business from that initial source. And obviously we have seen through this COVID situation, when we've been allowed to return to business, that there has been an influx of leads, and some agents have seen 100% growth like for like in comparison to last year. Couple that with the problem that Max mentioned about access and viewings, it's we've had a lot of problems come collectively together at the same time. And I suppose one of the other things that we've probably been fairly poor on as agents, and it's going back to that efficiency craze. If we look at what we do in a day's work and the actions that bring us money, it's amazing how much can get lost and fudded in the grey areas. Whereas when you've got hard and fast numbers saying we're doing X, Y, and Z, it's exposed front and centre for everyone. It helps those that are dealing with it day to day remain focused. And for the senior management teams and such like, it really helps them understand their business across the board. But having something that can expose all of that is quite helpful from a sort of a helicopter view.
Yeah, and just go back to that point about in terms of adoption in the team. How do the team love it as an application? Do they buy into it?
I think if and this is the whole thing with all of the Proptech scenarios, if it makes their job easier, and ultimately they can do more and earn more money, then is every inclination that they should enjoy the product. I think that's quite telling. If you adopt something and give you resistance early on, it probably means it isn't solving a problem they need to solve.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And Kristjan, thanks, Kai. And Kristjan, I shamelessly stole an idea from you because, of course, one of the reasons the Depositary was created was you were one of those agents that actually, on an annual basis, you would take a really micro look at the business, didn't you, and look at where the inefficiencies were, and that led to you actually assessing where there was this real need for what the Depositary does in terms of the tenancy process. Do you want to just give us an overview of how the origin story again there?
Yeah, look, so it's something that we've done for probably over 10 years now, and I've always taken the viewpoint that I pay my staff to do their job and to be experts at their job, and it's only fair that I listen to that expertise. So every year we sit down and we do it in two phases. So I will sit down with each of my team individually, and we'll just talk about, it'll be half an hour to an hour chat, and it will just be talking about, their job satisfaction, but also what patterns do they see within their role. We try to establish patterns within that. So, are there repetitive tasks? Are there repetitive consumer questions? Are there repetitive stresses that they have to deal with? And then, we drill down into those to understand what they like about their job, what don't they like about their job, and really that stuff they don't like, how do we get rid of that? Not offload it to someone else, but how do we get rid of it? So we start that process individually, sort of in the first half of the day, and in the latter half of the day, we all sit down as an entire company, and we talk through what we've highlighted out of those. We'll sort of, out of that, we'll drill down into sort of 3, 4, maybe 5 things that we're looking at that we then discuss in more detail, and then we'll refine that down to 1 or 2 problems that we really want to solve. And that process has worked really well for us. That was the process that helped us identify solving paperwork and adopting DocuSign, first of all. Probably the second thing we identified through that was that we've got a lot of international clients. And so we noticed this pattern of we come in the morning and we have an email from Singapore at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, "Oh, I'm sat with my accountant and I can't find last name's account statement." And so out of that came right, we're not going to have people on call 24/7 to send an email invoice, but we need to give that client something. So we need to give that client access to that information readily. So we went and looked, it wasn't in the market. We went out, we designed it, tendered it, and then basically went to Duplex at the time, who were what, about 2, maybe 3 years old. They were very early stage.
Yeah.
And we said, right, guys, we're going to build this. You need an API. You know, we need an integration. So that's pointless. And back then, APIs, no one talked about APIs. So their response was, not in a million years. We're not giving you access to the product. But, you know, we knew this was a genuine problem we wanted to solve in the business. And so my response to Duplex was, it's very simple. If I don't get this, I'm leaving. And so they didn't give me the API. They turned around, they said, look, give us 28 days to review this in-house and we'll come back to you. And about 2 weeks later, they came back and they said, Kristjan, we're not going to give you an API, but we'll build it ourselves.
Okay.
And my response was great. You know, at that time, I had no ambition to be a tech guy. I just wanted that problem solved. And that's how that problem got solved. And, you know, we were actually in the process of tendering our own version of FixFlow when Rajiv walked in the door one day. You know, and again, I was very happy to sort of tear up, thinking what those tenders were back then. I was very happy to tear up those quotes and go, great. You know, it was just about solving that problem. So that's always a process that's worked for us. And 4 years ago, what that process brought us to was the end of tenancy process. You know, it just brought us to, it was a part of the process that basically wasn't touched by any piece of tech at the moment. There wasn't anything in there improving the journey. We've got a fantastic relationship with 99% of our tenants, but psychologically, I find it a fascinating one because we've got tenants who will be in a flat with us for 5 years. They'll rave about us. They'll tell their mates to come and rent with us. And then the moment we give them notice, it's like, oh, here we go. This is where you stuff us. And it's like, where has that come from? You've looked after you amazingly for 5 years, and now your default is going to be like crap. And for me, that was a really interesting problem to solve, you know. And then when we drilled down into it with the staff, you know, we worked out we were spending a good 3 hours per tenancy doing an end of tenancy process, which is like the world's most thankless task. You never come out of that gleaming because either the tenant or the landlord or both of them feel that you're somehow working for the other party and that you're somehow lining your pocket out of the process. So for me, it's sort of, of all the things we looked at, this was a really exciting one for me because there was a genuine sort of value add for everyone. For us, it was, you know, could we get rid of hours and hours and hours of just horrible admin that have no value? But then for our landlords and tenants, for our tenants, could we bring a transparency to it? You know, whether they had that opinion through a previous experience or, you know, through reputation. I think the bottom line is if you went long enough, you know, and that's me speaking as a tenant who's still a tenant after 22 years. If you went long enough, you will have a bad experience with a landlord or an agent, and that can be how you think you're being accepted. And I think if there's one thing what I find fascinating about tech is that you could sit in front of someone and explain a process to them in person or by email, and they could sit there and argue every single point of that process with you. You put that exact same process in front of them as an app where they have to click this button and they have to do this. Not a single question. It is just that, oh, right, that's what I have to do to get to the next step. I have to do this and I have to do that. And I think, you know, they accept that you know, a product works the way it works, but also there's that acceptance that they know they're being treated exactly the same way as every tenant before you and every tenant after you. And yeah, I think there's just some fascinating psychology bits that came out of that. But yeah, that's what led us to really drill down on that one. And we looked in the marketplace, and not only was no one doing it, but we spoke to a few tech product suppliers. They were like, "No, all yours, mate. You that's a mess."
Great, David. You've listened to the fellas talk here. What's your thoughts on this in terms of? Have you got a product you're going to be launching? Is that what you come on the show to announce today?
I have got a Proptech product that I'm going to be launching. If only I knew somebody that knew something about Proptech.
Someone good.
I wanted to ask you all, given that obviously this is we're introducing technologies that require a certain amount of digital interaction and people knowing what they're doing when it comes to using that technology. So when I heard Matt talking before, he was saying, look, he's turned effectively, his guys have been turned into presenters, which again is another skill set that you get to have. And it's not that far away from somebody that's used to going into other people's living rooms and presenting to them on a valuation or whatever. So it's good. But aren't we basically, because we're using more and more tech, does that mean that we're actually lowering that age group in terms of the people that we employ in our teams? Are they becoming younger because we need to rely on the fact that they can actually use this and use it efficiently? And are we perhaps aging people out as well as a result of it? I'm sure you've all got vibrant teams anyway, but I'm asking.
I think we've got quite a diverse mix in our business, which I'm pleased to say, and some would put their hands up quicker to go and do a live stream than others. And I think that's with most things. You know, the younger staff might not get the opportunity to do the valuation, so it's probably kind of horses for courses in terms of what people get to do. I don't think for us the technology behind Gavel is too complex, and some of the other tech that we bring in, okay, it might be for a youngish director, it's easy to adopt, but as long as the training's there and the manuals are available and the resources are available, I think anyone should be able to pick it up. What you don't want to do is something that we're quite conscious of, and I'm sure I've got staff watching this today as well, is that we don't want to bring in too many shinies. That's the thing. You want to limit things, and COVID-19 has been a big problem for a lot of people. 9 weeks sat at home working has not been easy for anyone. So our implementation of things, and we have bought a few things in, and we probably bought them in quicker. We've kind of said, look, let's consolidate over these next 3 months. We've made the changes that we feel we needed to have made, and let's now see them working. Don't bring in another something and then another something. So Kai's area got straight through the door just in time. So that was one of the things. But like we wanted to make sure that we have, okay, there's a moment of pain when it comes in. People get to understand it. We get to work it through. Next 3 months, we get to see obviously how it's working for us, and then we review it. But going back to your point, I think pretty much everyone that's out doing viewings for us at the moment has done a live stream, including me. And so therefore we've got no one who said that they won't. And I think if they don't have confidence, they should be able to feel in an environment where they can put their hand up and say, look, I don't feel like this is really me. I'm quite happy doing viewings when it's just me and a client. I don't like doing live streams when I've got 15 people watching at the same time. And that's fine. You don't want them going out being nervous because they're shaking a phone. Then it's not going to be good for anyone. So.
David, I'd also add to that is that our consumers, the people buying and selling and renting, etc., are using tech more and more in terms of how they're interacting with us as agents. So whether we like it or not, tech is going to become more and more of the game going forward. So if we want to remain relevant and a cutting-edge company, it's going to be paramount that we bring Proptech to the front and centre of that proposition going forward.
And Philip makes the point here again, do you think staff make enough noise of their headaches and pain points to their director? Just going on your point earlier here, Kristjan, isn't it? I think that does need to be fed up. I was always amazed that people having, problems with the software that the principals of the business just weren't aware of. They were getting what they needed in terms of reporting needs, but actually the hands-on staff weren't being dealt with.
Yeah, I think that depends on your relationship with your staff, right? I think some staff are worried that if they go to their manager, their director, and say, "Oh, this is a real ball ache. I have to keep doing this." It'll be seen as whinging or complaining or whatever. Rather than, so I think yes, I think managers do need to, but member of staff also be careful that you're not just taking your manager or director problems. Right? No, none of us really want that member of staff that's constantly coming and going, "Oh, this is rubbish. Oh, I hate doing more." Come and tell me something's rubbish, but come and tell me how to make it better. Come and tell me how to fix it. Come and bring me some ideas. Whether that's product or whether that's just saying, why do we do this way? We've got these 5 steps. We can do it in 3 if we just change this. Like, engage in the business. And then just quickly touching on what we were talking about before, about is tech sort of creating an age divide in business. I think the sign of a really good tech product is how easy and intuitive it is to use. Something can be seriously clever, but if you need a degree to run that platform, then it doesn't bloody matter. You might as well just hire someone who's clever enough to do it in the first place and pay there. The sign of a really good product is that it has that really clever stuff back end, so it fits with the way your business operates. But from a day-to-day usage basis, it should be really, really simple. And I think when we started building the Depositary, one of the things when we sat down with our dev team, because we use an outsourced company to build our platform, and the very first thing I said to them in the brief is, I want to build a product so that an agent using our platform can walk out their office into the high street, grab a punter off the high street, sit them in front of their computer, and that punter should be able to do a transaction through our platform without any help or assistance.
Christian, it's a lot better than that. You sat me down in that first launch, and I knew how to work it. I don't know what's better than a minimum viable product, but if I can use it, it really is amazing.
But it's got to be easy to use, right? For us as a business, I don't want to have 30 support staff who are constantly having to hold someone's hand through it. Also, for a business, if you've got a product where literally your staff have got to call up support 2 or 3 times a day to know how to do something, you're losing the efficiency you're delivering to that business. So for us as an organisation, but also the agencies you go into, it's got to be seamless. It's got to be easy.
And I think that's brilliant, Christian. But Damon, I think you'd echo that, wouldn't you? And if you're looking at your own business, I think you spoke about the evolution from when BriefYourMarket, as fantastic as it was quite a detailed product, wasn't it? You're seeing the evolution now, where you're going much more KPI based and giving those immediate overview stats very, very easily, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'd probably go even a stage further and say, going back to the challenge I talked about earlier, where agents like pretty butterflies, you've got to automate as much as you can. And that's been really prevalent for us in COVID-19, because obviously as people have been furloughed and there's been less people inside organizations, we actually increased the amount of usage in our product, decreased it, because people were learning or were more understanding of how important automation was. So I think there's a couple of folds that you need to think about, which is you have to automate absolutely everything that's possible. Leave as much user interaction as you can. Leave as little user interaction as you can. Make that really, really simple and easy to do, and then make sure that your outputs are fed back to you without doing anything. And I think if you epicenter around that and really focus on the myopia of that inside software, I think you'll do well.
That's good. I'll stick with you again, Damon, actually, for this next and the final question here. We've looked at this kind of the ghosts of Christmas past and present. What does the future hold for Proptech? A few people have thank you, Paul. A few people have talked about, obviously, we've got Amy on again from Agent OS. They were one of the first CRM companies, to actually have an open API. Is this a perfect fluffy bunny world now, where all of the CRM companies are gradually opening up, or do you see some concerns or things to look out for on the horizon?
I think it goes back to the point I said right at the beginning, which is there's got to be a consolidation of Proptech. I'm massively keen on that myself as an individual. We're writing more software every single day to cover more and more Proptech or singular Proptech products in the marketplace, because agents not only have fatigue on the amount of products they have fatigue on the amount of products they have to log into. And then going back to Christian's point on agonizing over the customer journey, that's really hard when you're dropping a product here and dropping a product there and trying to work out how they fuse together to create a world-class customer service. So I think it's phenomenal that CRM systems are opening up. I think that's really cool, and you're going to see that.
You've only been asking for that for a decade, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, and it was interesting listening. They talk about APIs and really dirty word, and I can promise you I've lived that nightmare for 10 years. We managed to integrate into 94, 95% of all CRM products by writing an enormous amount of technology. So I see it really positively that they're all opening up, and actually we can do more technical reads and writes. But it's we considered that, like I said before, is not just a wash of loads of new products that add, and therefore that creates more confusion and more agents that are scared.
So you're talking there really about agents really want to have a single sign-on for all of their systems.
Yeah, 100%, mate. The amount of agents I talk to that just say to me, just write that because I'm sick of logging in there and then logging in there and then logging in there.
Yeah, the idea of security with 20 post-it notes with different passwords.
Makes me laugh, yeah. Or people write it in a notepad and actually save it on the desktop, which is like the easiest thing in the world for a guy like me to get access to. So, yeah, so I think that when you start to see that come together, that holistic view, I think that they made a really good point that somebody said to me a while ago that agents are still analog and they need to be digital. I think the minute that Proptech really start to join forces and come out with one product or two products and not 50 products, I think you'll see the customer experience really drive forward.
57 minutes and you had to go and mention holistic. I'm very disappointed. Kai, do you obviously from your point of view, it can only be seen as a positive, isn't it? The CRM companies starting to open up like this.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm sure every agent I've been speaking to for the last 10 years has been requesting it. So that's why I do think we're on the cusp of this whole industry changing, and it'll be technology driven through that. And ultimately, we can then deliver much greater efficiency, much better customer experience, because everything will be looking at the same place and there'll be a seamless progression through. That's what we need.
Okay, cool. And Kristjan, what about from your point of view? Is there anything? And is it all positive on the outlook, or is there things that still cause you concern?
I think the integration thing for me, the partnerships is more exciting than necessarily the CRM integrations. Like for us, you know, we were looking at the CRM integration, and actually the data entry for us, I know data entry is super boring, but for us on a transaction, data entry is about 3 minutes. We're looking at an integration with inventory providers at the moment. And that's really interesting. If we can pull off what we're all talking about doing, you know, that partnership integration is going to save 20 to 30 minutes per transaction versus CRM integration at 3 minutes. So that's super exciting. And, you know, and what we're hoping to hang off the back of that, if we can pull off what we want to do, you know, it gives us a great hook, is that, you know, we'll be able to turn around to agents and say, you'll never have to read a checkout report again. You know, that as well as the efficiency, how cool is that you can have a checkout report done, and then, because a lot of them also have integrations with FixFlow. So actually between the three of us, you could have a checkout report happen. From that, the checkout report will automatically send all the issues into FixFlow for that agent to resolve. And then they'll be able to curate that list into our platform for what is the tenant liability. You know, and to remove that mundane job of reading a 30, 40 page checkout report, which A is super boring, but B, removing that human error is awesome. And then if we can reach this gold standard of interconnecting products, you know, the idea that you can have an applicant contact your business, they can come in through Kai's platform, be vetted, it can go into Gavel, your staff do an online viewing, you get your offer, that gets pulled into Good or Properly, you know, goes through there, your inventory company's hooked in off the back of that, so that facilitates your check-in, and then you've got your tenant in your property using FixFlow for your maintenance and agent pay or pay prop for payment transactions through the process, and out the back of that, you've got your integrated inventory going into us with Depositary, you know, returning your funds and sorting out the maintenance. You know, if those are all talking to one another and transient, then yeah, you know, as Kai alluded to, we're finally going to achieve this stellar optimization that we've all been talking about, and that's super exciting, right? And the next
I was going to say it's fantastic and it's a kind of supplier reach around, but I actually meant a group hug. So it shows I've had a heavy night. But there's something in the supplier reach around. I think there's actually, that when we did the survey of about 1,000 offices and we asked their biggest pain points, unsurprisingly, number 2 was the lack of integration between all of the products was one of their biggest issues. And I think it's going to be until we genuinely almost deliver on this kind of this app store, looking at the likes of what Agent OS are doing, what Repeat are doing with their pass system and everything else there. It really does put up something exciting, doesn't it? What about from your view, Matt, in terms of, obviously this is a new company from Australia. You feel like it's lucky that you're entering at this stage rather than having to fight the fight like Damon has to say?
Yeah, hearing what Damon said, that sounded like utopia, what Kristjan just announced. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'd like to live in that.
He's a massive hippie. Don't listen to him.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have a good day now. Is that this week? That's coming in, Kristjan. Will you start that this week? But no, genuinely, I came up against the wall saying no. Unfortunately, we can't integrate with your CRM straight away. Which I expected it was just one agent trying to bring in some tech. Now I'm finding more and more agents who are using Gavel. I think there's beginning to be a part of a kind of a bit of a power really behind it. And as Kristjan said, it's kind of nice to work with other suppliers because SMS integrations and stuff like that would work very nicely with our CRM. Those are the things just to make our life easier, make the consumers experience a lot better, to find out actually what they thought of the live stream, then find out if they need a mortgage and see if we can, cross-sell a few bits of things. It would all work very nicely, but we just need the gates to come down and things to start. I guess I'm a little bit out of the loop on when that's likely to happen. Damon probably will be in on when that's likely, if ever.
And Rob makes the point here with the requirement of understanding detailed data. Do you think CRMs will need to develop a considerable amount to understand all the data provided from different suppliers, not just storing email address, names, and property? I suppose what thank you, Rob. I think the point there is, isn't it? It's not just opening up your database that's the key here, as well as it. The whole mapping of data and making sure it integrates in the right way is still absolutely critical, isn't it? Damon, you probably know this better than anyone, given your history. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think what I've seen in the CRM systems is a real hard look at how to integrate, and I think I'll use Repeat Foundations, which is brilliant. You not only have they thought about common data that you want to obtain and common data that you want to write back, they've thought about data that they don't know, and therefore they've allowed you to write fields onto the contact record. So I think they've actually got that nailed, and also nailed in a look formation from an entity relationship diagram that gives you a lot of freedom to write data that's very, very usable for agents and therefore give a good customer experience.
So Amy just asked the point on Zapier. So many of you will have heard of Zapier. It's a middleware tool that helps with integration. I suppose the key is it needed anymore, Damon, or does Zapier have a place to play in this industry?
I think it's always interesting. It depends about how much code you want to write. If you want to be low code and actually use a middleware, and Zapier is an interesting platform to use. You remember the advantages of that. It's easy to do, and therefore heavy lifting. The disadvantages are that you're not in control of everything that you're writing at the back end, and therefore if you want to make it completely customizable to your requirements, that might have some limitations. So again, it depends how detailed you want to be.
Well, you've mentioned him a few times, like Candyman. Gary pops up. Can't wait to see all the apps on Foundations. Great work from the Repeat Engineering tier. So no doubt you're working with them at the moment, Damon, to facilitate all this area.
Yeah, no, I didn't realise Gary were on here, otherwise it wouldn't have been as complimentary. So
keep it sweet.
Yeah, I am, and the Foundation product's amazing. said that many times on many forums, and they've done a sterling job in a short amount of time. It's very impressive.
Cool. Absolutely. Okay, guys, I think that's really useful. I commend all of you. I think genuinely you've created really impressive and been involved in the process. Obviously, Matt, we're looking very excited to see how that Gavel obviously develops over time, and continued success with all of your products. But for now, I just want to say thank you once more, and catch up with you all soon.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Simon. Take care, mate. All the best, guys.